Now tonight we're going to, I'm going to show you how to create your own watercolor gift tags. So this is an example of a gift tag that I made of a Christmas tree. This is an example of mistletoe. I don't know if you've seen mistletoe out in the wild hanging out up in the trees, but in Maryland on the Eastern Shore. So that's, we would go over the Chesapeake Bridge and it was very farmlandish on the Eastern Shore. And so I had a friend that had a horse farm over there, and we would go out with a little shotgun, just, like a small one, like kids would play with, because I was young then. And we would find mistletoe up in the trees. You can see it because all the leaves have fallen out and the mistletoe is sitting up in the trees. And then you shoot at it and you hear all of these berries on the mistletoe coming down, hitting the ground. It's hysterical. And then you go running to see what pieces of mistletoe you can find that still have the little berries on it. And the little berries are kind of a blush, whitish, light blue. So that's why I put it in here, and I put the little light blue berries in here. So that's another design I'm going to show you. And then this is the sort of some of the bokeh effect. I'm going to show you how to make one of these. And then these are for Hanukkah. So this is a dreidel, and they use a lot of the blue and silver colors and gold colors um, during the holidays. And then these are some bookmarks that are made. And what I've done is I actually found and bought a pad of watercolor paper. It's 100% cotton, made by Hanamola up here, Hanamola. And it is already formatted for bookmarks, which is awesome because then you don't have to cut them, but you can cut them if you don't have a little booklet like this. But what I did was I took the bookmark page out of here and I just cut it in half. And that's how I made the tags, because they were already pretty much the size that I needed them. But don't stress if you don't have a pad like this. You can still follow along just by using a piece of, whoops, hold on, I'm dropping things already. But this is 140-pound watercolor paper. And so you can see here, I've just measured it up and I've cut it. And so this, for example, is the same thing, bookmark size, right? Same as this. See, there's some more of the mistletoe there. And so you can just cut yourself some bookmarks out of 140-pound regular watercolor paper. And then, of course, if you want to make tags instead, bloop, you would just do that size, the smaller size. You can do them whatever size you want, right? But as I say, don't stress. You can just use a piece of watercolor paper like this in order to do your own. So let's also talk about the paint. We're going to be using watercolor paint tonight. So this is Christy Rice's watercolor paint set. If you're on YouTube, after the workshop, I put links in the description for the products that we're going to be using for painting. And so I'll put a link to Christy Rice's um, palette. And this is her palette here, the 12 colors. And then I added a couple of colors. So even though it comes with 12, there's actually room to stick another little pan in there. These are called watercolor half pans. So I bought empty watercolor half pans and I put two extras in here. One is Chinese white watercolor, and the other one was a Daniel Smith Cascade Green, one of my favorite greens. And then over here, she gives you another 6 little wells, and I filled those with some other paint colors as well. So you can not only use her colors, which are fun and fabulous, but you can also add some more of your own colors. So I ended up adding 8 of my own colors to this palette um, for my own personal taste to round out the color selection that I could mix with it. And then there's another um, travel set that I use a lot, and it is this Pebeo travel set. So if you see here, right? And so Pebeo has several different formats of travel sets. And I happened to get the round one. And so I made my own little color wheel. This didn't come in it. This is just a piece of watercolor paper that I cut. So you can do that for any of your palettes. You can just cut a piece of paper, watercolor paper, to fit in the palette, and then do what are called watercolor swatches. Because when you look at them here, you can't always tell exactly what the color is. Oftentimes you need to see what it looks like on the paper itself to know what the color is going to come out like. So for instance, see this green right here? They call it permanent green light. Well, if you look at it here, it looks kind of like a pine green. But when you swatch it, you see how light it is? It looks more electric green like that painting up behind me. So I think it's important to have a little swatch card and make it for yourself with your watercolors. And the cool thing about this set is it has 4 mixing wells. So when you're traveling somewhere, it's very easy then to mix your colors right in here. Hey, Fate Bread, welcome in, welcome in. This little set, several of the Pebeo sets also come with brushes. So this happens to be a travel brush. The cool thing is, see how long it is? But it unscrews like this. And then these 2 parts go inside here. Now, I don't know if these round ones are available anymore, but if they're not, I will certainly put a good substitute of the Pebeo watercolors. I know there are several other travel sets that they have that include a brush as well. And so I'll make sure that I link that for you in the description of the video on YouTube. And the reason I showed you that is that the colors in the first set that I showed you from Christy Rice are Christy's favorite colors. And so there are certain things in here like a neon yellow and some of this olive green that's over here that are not the same as what you might find in a standard starter set. So that's why I mentioned the Pebeo starter set, because the colors that are in here are more of your standard colors that you would get in a basic set of 12. And there are different companies as well. There's Winsor and Newton makes a starter set with 12 or 24 colors. And so the colors that are in this Pebeo set are more often what you're going to find in a typical set. I like this one from Christy Rice because, woo, there's some fun colors in there that you don't get in a normal set of 12. And I like that a lot. Plus, I bought Christy Rice's empty. This was an empty watercolor set. And then I bought the little half pans and filled them. Some of them I filled myself and some of them I purchased. And so you can see here, this is a set of 24. And I have my swatch card here that I made. And these are other colors. Some of these are colors, this whole row right here are colors from Critter Chops on Whatnot. So if you're on Whatnot, Critter Chops, CritterChops, is an artist that I follow. Um, and makes he makes some of his own watercolors from dry pigments, and then so they're his own formulas. So these are Critter Chop's own formulas of watercolors, as well as I put some other ones over here. Yes, at Critter Chops. Thank you. Thanks, Florida Glass Girl. So I took his paints and I put it in an empty palette. So you can buy these empty and then you can fill them with whatever kinds of paints you want. And there are what you want to be aware of is when you get the empty palette, is the empty palette designed for what are called half pans? That's these smaller little pans like this. Or is it designed for full pans? Because a full pan is longer. All right. And you could actually, like for the Christie Rice set here, this empty space in the middle, you can either put a travel brush. So like I showed you that other brush from Pebeo, you can buy, Christie Rice even has travel brushes, but there are other companies that make either short, usually it's a short brush on the top, and when you take the top off and you put it on the back of the handle, that creates your longer brush. And you can often put a travel brush right here in this space, or if you prefer certain colors, you can get the full pan size instead of the half pan size, and you can put several full pans, either 3 or 4 full pans right there in that space. They'll sit right in there. Okay, so that you can customize it for yourself if that's what you want. And then we're also going to be working with these. And if you've seen my shows before, you've seen I love these starry colors. They're the Gansai Tambi Starry Colors from Kuretake. They are Japanese. Oh my gosh, the golds in this are absolutely brilliant. And this is what I remember, the one I said has that kind of bokeh shimmer effect. This one right here, which I think they call it white gold. Let's see, is what I use. It's kind of just iridescent. And there are a lot of brands that you can get of iridescent. Yeah, they call it white gold, but it's just a plain, like pearlescent iridescent. Oh, so good for adding to your colors or for creating that shimmer effect that I'm going to be showing you tonight. And then another thing we're going to be using is these Signo Uniball pens. Oh, these are my favorite pens for adding fun details in a silver or gold. And there's also a white one. So a white one. So the set that I like to buy for myself is the set of 3, the silver, the gold, and the white. But it's also available where you can get 3 golds if you find that you like the gold the best and you use a lot. So for instance, here on this, the silver that's up here and in here, that was the silver Signo. And then the gold, oops, the gold that's here and the line was with the gold one. The same here on the tree. I just went hog wild with the gold pen and put in a bunch of little sparkle stars there. So these are the pens that I like to use for that. And then of course, if you want to do some black outlining, my favorite pen is the Sakura Micron pens. And on the top, they tell you what the size of the nib is. So the nib is this little top right here, and they come in different sizes. Actually, I think I have a set right here I can show you. So this is a set that I purchased, and you can see I already took one out of there to work with. But and then at the top here, they have the different nib sizes. Just got a new set of those. Oh, did you? Yeah, these are awesome. There was a big sale I know from the uh what is it? The Cyber Monday, Black Friday, all of that. These were on sale, and yeah, so they were worth it to pick them up for a good price, right? Oh, yes. But I love my Micron pens. The interesting thing about the Micron pens is that the black ink is permanent. So when you put it down, as long as you give it, a minute or two to dry, you can go back over top of this with your watercolors, or vice versa. You can put your watercolors down and let them dry, and then come back in with the marker afterwards and create your highlighted designs using these. Now, these don't only come in black, they also come in a whole bunch of different colors. And so, for instance, and the way is the top of it has a color. So this one's green there, but I usually look at the back end. So I store them up so the back end is there. Here's a brown one. So you see the brown right there. Here's a red one, right? So for instance, the balls on this tree here, instead of using watercolor paint, because what you'll find is if I put the green paint down and then I go back over top of it with a red paint, if the green is not bone dry, that green can reactivate into the red, and then the red doesn't look as red as you want it to. But if you go back over it with a pen afterwards, so this is the red pen, then you can create your little balls of red ink on top of that green, and the green will not reactivate. So I love working with these pens as well. And again, they tell you on the top here what the size of the nib is. So this is a 0.5. And I bought those in a set where it was a whole bunch of different colors in the set. All right. Um, one last thing is here, you can see, for instance, on this bookmark, the word joy. And here you see on this one, fa la la. So you can use some sort of indelible ink, whether it's in a pen, like this is a Prismacolor calligraphy pen. I mean, if I have really beautiful handwriting, I could just go ahead and use the Micron pens. But this is a chisel tip pen from Prismacolor with the permanent ink in it. And so I like that chisel tip for doing writing where you get the thin and the thick lines. Some people are really good at that with a brush marker, but I don't have a good set of brush markers for that right now. So this calligraphy pen, which is not very expensive, it's just a Prismacolor calligraphy pen. That's what I did the fa la la with. So you can see the thin and the thick lines there. And then this one was done with a dip pen. So this is a dip pen, a speedball dip pen. And you can see the little top there. So I just dipped that in India ink and then drew. I like working with, hey Brian Resell, welcome in. I like working with the dip pen. There's just something about the feel of something that's like a fountain pen. And this one is a fountain pen, a Japanese fountain pen that I have for urban sketching. But there's just something about writing or drawing with a dip pen like that that just makes you want to put all those fun flourishes on your letters. So I'm going to show you what I do before I actually write on these little pieces of paper. This is what I do. I take a smooth paper. This is actually called Bristol paper. You can see here, that's the Canson XL Bristol paper. Is really good for practicing your calligraphy on. And so I use my dip pen or my fountain pen, and then I just draw all over it. This is all permanent ink. This is the India ink. So you're going to see there, India ink. Sometimes it's called China ink. Or this one is Higgins, and it is an acrylic ink. That will also work with a dip pen. You just have to be sure with acrylic ink that you clean it off like right away so it doesn't stick to your page. I think there's another page here too. This one I was practicing Merry Christmas, and this one I was practicing Happy Hanukkah. So you can see, and the cool thing is, this is permanent ink on here. So I can just go over top of this with other colors of permanent ink or acrylic paints or anything like that. And this practice becomes an interesting background for something else. When you're a mixed media artist, you don't throw any of these kind of papers away. They're like perfect for using later for some other sort of artwork. All right. So we are going to go over top of the table and get started. Very short introduction tonight. Oh, one other thing is brushes. So these are my favorite brushes, the Princeton Velvet Touch. It has this like incredibly, velvety handle to it. And you'll notice here, you see that tip is very sharp. So that I find helps me to get to make the precise shapes that I want. And this one is the size 6, but I have a whole bunch of different sizes of these brushes. And then there's another type of brush from Princeton. This is the number 6 Heritage. These both work for watercolor, but if you'll notice the tips, one of the tips is sharp and one of them is rounded. So I like to use the rounded ones when I'm doing something like this, because then I can get the rounded leaves from the mistletoe. And then I use the sharp pointed one when I'm doing something like this, and I want to do the sharpness of the edge of the holly, right? Because if I didn't show it on here, but there are little spikes on the end of the holly, right? So if you brush up against a holly bush, you're gonna know it. Right? Because they will let you know it. All right, let's go ahead and come over top of the table. Of course, you're going to need some sort of water. So I have containers here with water. Sometimes I need a little dropper in order to activate my watercolors, or you can just spray them with a water spray bottle. That helps too. And then sometimes I like to mix my colors. This is a Corel dish, and I like the way it's long and skinny like this. And I can mix my colors in here and it works out beautifully. Okay, so let me move some things around here and then we will go up over top of the table. Nice, and get started. Hold on one second. I'm going to put out a piece of paper here. I just take, when I'm painting these, I take a notebook, like this is just sketch paper here. So these sketch notebooks are relatively inexpensive. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a page like these that has nothing on it. So we can work. I like to work on top of that as a background. That's just, you don't have to do that, but I like to do that. That way you have a nice, when you flip the page, you have a nice clean background to work on each time. Let's get our, I actually have 3 cups of water here because I find that I like to do an initial rinse in the water and then do a second rinse. A lot of watercolorists will have 2 waters like that. And that way, when you're cleaning off your brush, you go into one of them first with the dirty water, with the dirty brush, and then you rinse off in the clean water. And that helps to keep your, when you're switching back and forth from colors, it helps to keep them cleaner. All right, let me go ahead and open this back up again. Ooh, there we are. We are going to use this big brush from Pebeo. Okay, where did the other half go? It came flying out. So there's that there. It probably ended up in my lap. Yes. So the one that came in the Pebeo set, the travel brush, is this what I call big fluffy brush, or some people might call it a mop brush or a wash brush. But you can see there how big and fluffy the top of it is. It's perfect for doing the bokeh effect that I talked about, where you soften your artwork and then you drop in your iridescent. So that's this one right here. Yes. Ooh. And I'm going to keep this handy. This is the color swatching from my Pebeo. I'm just going to set it off to the side. Now, this particular set, because it comes in a tin, you can mix your colors in the tin. So you see that where you've got some colors in there. So you're always looking for areas to mix your paint. For instance, over here on this one, you get a couple of wells here for mixing. But of course, I've filled them up with other stuff like other paints and things. It's okay. It's all right. Oh, so let's start out with something super easy. We are going to, let's cut a tag. So I'm just going to use watercolor paper at first for this. And I'm going to cut a tag. So let me grab a pair of scissors. And remember, this is homemade, right? It's handmade. So you don't have to be exact if you don't want to. Now, often I will sit here and I'll use scissors and I'll use a ruler and I'll measure everything. And I'm like, ah, it's okay. Let's just, in the essence of time, let's just do this. I can always come back and recut the edges on a little guillotine machine to get the edges perfect if I want to later. This is just a page of 140-pound watercolor paper. Woo! Man, I am way off on the edges there. Okay, so I will do just a minor fix so it doesn't look quite so bad. Okay, there we go. All right, so now I've got a piece of watercolor paper. Yes, watercolor paper does have a front and a back. The way you can tell is that it's pressed between pieces of felt, and often it'll look a little bit different on the front than it does on the back. But here we've got what's going to become a tag. Now, oh, the one other tool I didn't show you earlier is this is a hole punch. So it's just from the stationery store. And this is the front of the paper and this is the back. You can actually, with watercolor paper, you should be able, if it's good quality watercolor paper, you should be able to paint on either the back or the front. Okay. Um, and so here I can see the texture and I know this is the front. So I'm going to go somewhere in the middle here. I'm going to make my hole. I usually make my hole first so I know where it is that I want to paint. Okay, so that's your tag. Ready to roll? We are ready. So we're going to start with the Christmas tree because that's kind of the easiest one. Hey there, Critter Chops. Welcome in. Welcome in. I was showing people your that I took your paints that I bought from you, Critter Chops, and I put it in one of these Christy Rice empty. It was an empty tin, and then I took your half pans and I popped them in there. So I was talking about you. Your ears must have been burning. So I have a custom set that I made with your paints. Woot woot. Okay, let's what I like to do when I start with a tree is I want to get a sense of where the center is, and then I'm working basically symmetrically from there. Okay. And the way that I did it on this one was I did the star first. And that way, because I did the star first and I knew where the center of the star was, I could build the rest of the tree around it. So what I'm going to start with is sketching. So it is helpful just to have a pencil. This is a mechanical pencil. And I'm going to go ahead and just below the little circle here, that's why you want to, I like to make my circle first. I like to punch first. And I'm just making the star right in the middle of where the hole is. And I'm just doing it with a pencil, freehanding it. It's fine. It's fine. Oops. I didn't do that one very, the thing that's great about having using a pencil is that you can erase it, right? So if I didn't feel like I did something correctly. So in watercolor, it's absolutely fine, y'all, to use pencil to sketch your designs, okay? Nothing wrong with that at all. Oh, I see what's wrong with this. Now, this is that's a zebra mechanical pencil. Yes, that's exactly what it is, Critter Chops. That's hysterical. Let's see, this says, the funny thing is, yeah, it says zebra right there. It is the M301 half millimeter. Pencil nerd. So, Critter Chops, do you have this? The Mono Zero by Tombow eraser, but it's a precision eraser like that, a little teeny tiny one. Oh, I love this thing. Love it. I saw someone else using it on a video and I went, oh, what is that? I have to have that, you know. It helps a lot when you're doing your designs to have sort of a precision um, eraser. There we go. That's close enough to a star. Some people do the star at the end and they just paint it in, but I like to have the star done like that, and then I build the tree around it. That's just the way I like to do it. And uh, so I already know I'm going to build the tree with this right here as my center line. Sometimes I'll actually take a yes, Critter Chop says he does have that one and he has a backup as well. I can understand that. Actually, when I had to evacuate for the hurricanes, I'm not going to lie, I made sure I took this with me because I don't have a backup. It's the only one that I have, and I love it because it works so well. All right, let's bring this down a little bit closer. So, oops, sorry, so you can see a little bit better. And we're going to, I'm going to move that for right now, that tray. And that way you can see this a little bit better in the center. Cool. So these little boughs are relatively small, right? So I'm just going to use my Princeton size 6. Let's get it wet first. So in general, I do get my brushes wet first. Not everybody does, but I just find that works better for me. And then I'm always holding a paper towel. That eraser is a survival tool, no doubt. Critter chops. I concur. It is a great tool if you're doing any drawing. Oh my gosh, you'll thank me. You'll thank me if you don't have one, and you follow my links at the in the description of the video after on YouTube, and I'll be adding the links for that for you to be able to find the mono zero eraser. Okay, so let's grab the wet brush. Now, what you're going to notice in my jars is that I keep the water, I don't fill it up halfway. I keep the water low because you don't need a lot of water, and I really don't want to go up above this metal part, which is called the ferrule. Okay, I want to keep the water at the ferrule and below in my water jars. That way, especially if you have a wooden handle here, and some brushes are very expensive, you're able to protect the handle. Especially if you're bad about your brushes, like I tend to be, and I leave them in the water often overnight before washing them, sometimes more days than that. And and so if it's a wooden handle, it can damage the wooden handle by doing that. But if the water is kept down below the ferrule, oftentimes you don't have that same problem. Okay. And then I wipe off the ferrule. So I don't want that metal part to be wet. I just want the tip to be wet. And let's get some interesting greens going here. So actually I am going to need this back, aren't I? Because I'm going to do some color mixing here. So I'm going to come over here. Notice that on in Christy Rice's set, she has an olive green here, and then she has a teal, but she doesn't have that bright green like this one does in the Pebeo set. So that's why often I'll have more than one set laid out to work with because they just have different colors in them. Okay, so let me grab some green. Whoa, that is beautiful. But you see how that looks kind of electric? That green color's like, whoa, in your face. And pine trees tend to be a little bit more olive, right? So now I'm going to dip in and get some water. Now I'm going to pull some of this olive green that's in the set from Christy Rice. Ah, now we have a beautiful, happy medium right there. So we're going to start with that bright green. And I'm just going to I'm going to bring it up a little closer to you here. I'm just going to make little marks starting from the middle there. And of course, as you go down in your tree, you want it to go out a little bit further, right? So I usually like to take the tip of my brush and start with the tip going this way. So no muss, no fuss. I'm going to put it back down because it's a little bit easier for my hand. If you need to, just pick up more paint like that. So let's just, and the cool thing is these are so simple and somebody will appreciate that you took the time to make your own name tag. So they don't have to be perfect. It's the thought that counts, right? And so then, of course, as you go down further, you want your tree to be wider and a little bushier. We are going to put a darker color. I started with a lighter color, so you can see this green here is lighter. And then I'm going to be darkening it and putting in another layer. So this tree actually has 2 layers of green colors in it. And that's what I like to do, is I like to layer the green. Okay. Now at the bottom here, what you're going to find is that the boughs, so at the top, the boughs are going like this, and at the bottom, they're kind of going out, and some of them are going down. So that's what you want to do down here. I always leave myself a little bit room at the bottom here in order to put the little pot that the pine tree comes in, or you can put a little skirt around it, something like that. Okay, so we have our basic tree there. And then I'm going to darken this green. So let's grab another dark color. Now over here in the Pebeo, we have another dark green. So here they call it earth green. So you can see that it's a very earthy green color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull some of that earthy green and I'm going to put that in here and it's going to make it darker. Come on, earth green. There we go. So it's going to darken it. I might even put a little bit more of this olive green from over here from Christy Rice. There we go. So now that's a darker shade of green. And ooh, I might even put a little bit of, sometimes when you want to darken a color, you can put a little bit of purple, or in the case of this green, you can put a little bit of ultramarine blue. So what I've done is her set does not have ultramarine blue, and there's no ultramarine blue over here either. This is phthalo blue and cobalt blue. So if I want to darken something, I can take a little bit. I added from a tube here, a little bit of ultramarine blue, and that will help also to deepen that green color. Nice. I want it to be nice and deep compared to the last color that was there. Fabulous. Okay. Now I'm going to get a little bit of water on the brush so that the paint flows off of it. And then we're going to do the darker. So it tends to be near the center of your tree here. So the things that are closer to the center and up underneath the bottom here is where you're going to find your darker colors if you were looking at a natural tree. So that's what I do, is I just sort of go in from the middle. That's why it didn't matter if you filled the whole area with the branches from the first layer. When I do watercolor, I'm always doing multiple layers. There we go. We're putting the dark green in. Florida Glass Girl, are you following along? I think you did last week, right? You had your watercolors out and you were following along. Okay. So when you put that darker color in, what happens is it starts to give your tree a lot more fullness, the effect of being more full. And it gives it more dimension as well. Okay, cool. That's it for the tree. Now let's clean out our brush. Remember, I've got the 2 waters here. I know you can't see them right now. They're a little off camera, but I went to the first one to get the majority of the color out, and now I'm rinsing in the clean one for the next one. Okay, now the nice thing about watercolor is, oh yes, awesome. That's so cool. Florida Glass Girl. She's following along or has her colors out. So this green, the neat thing is with watercolor, I can just leave this to dry and I can come back with a little bit of water later and reactivate the color and it will come right back to life, which is so cool. So you never waste your water. Plus, when you're going from one day to the next day, you still got your same colors on your palette. It's awesome. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is work on the little pot at the bottom here. So I'm just going to, let's get this out of here and I'll come up with another color. Maybe I'll do they have a really nice sienna in here. She has a dark brown right there. That's Christy Rice. But over here on the Pebeo palette, they have a nice sienna. So this color right here is just very rich. And I can pull it straight from here. So let's get just a little more water on there. Okay, cool. Now I've got plenty of color on there. And what I'm going to do is create the shape of the pot first for the bottom. And then the very, very bottom here is rounded, a little bit rounded, not straight, just a little rounded. And I like to make a striped pot. So you see how that pot has stripes on it? I just find it gives it a little more interest. So instead of just filling it in, which you absolutely could do, I like to put those stripes. I think the stripes are fun. And when you do the stripes, follow the same curve that you have for the bottom right here. And that's just one more little detail that makes it look fun. Okay, great. So we got our little pot in there. And then I'm going to rinse out my brush again, because now we're going to go for the yellow of the star at the top. As it's drying, it looks so beautiful. You know, to my eye, looking at it here in person, to see the light colors underneath and those dark dramatic colors on top there. Oh, it's so nice. Okay, let's go ahead then into the yellow. Now, what I did with my star here is I started with Christy Rice's neon yellow color. And so that's up here in her set. It's like a bright, 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 bright. But these fluorescent neon colors are superb for, here, I'll bring it down because it looks like you can't see it. Um, they are superb for color mixing, I find. Oh my gosh, you get the most incredible colors when you color mix with these neons. They're fantastic. So I'm just going to fill in that star that I drew earlier. Don't worry about the pencil lines. Now, if you feel like the pencil lines are too much, remember, this is just a tag you're giving to somebody, so no stress. But if you were to do a piece of artwork that you wanted to keep, you take your eraser and you lightly erase the lines so that there's a hint of the lines there instead of a heavy line there. Okay. If you're concerned at all about the lines, if you're working in acrylics, you don't worry about it because for the most part, the acrylic paints go right over top of those lines. But when you're doing watercolors, for the most part, they're transparent and that will show through. Now, if you don't have a neon yellow, just use any light yellow. Normally when I paint with watercolors, I start with the lightest color first, and then I build the darker colors after that. Okay, let's do this. And so now I have this super bright yellow star there. So oftentimes you'll hear it called lemon yellow. For instance, in this Pebeo set, the yellow here is lemon yellow, but I have put a bunch of blue in and made a green. So you can't see that it's lemon yellow, but it is. So most starter sets will have some sort of bright yellow or lemon yellow in it. Um, it's just the Christy Rice set has this really cool fluorescent yellow. All right, now also oftentimes sets will have more than one yellow. So for instance, here you have two yellows. You have your lemon yellow and then a cadmium yellow. And in this one, I added something called permanent yellow right here. And because sometimes I like a warmer yellow. Colors are can tend toward warm or tend toward cool. So blue is a cool color and red is a warm color, for instance. And so even within the same hue, so yellows, you can have warmer yellows and cooler yellows. So the fluorescent yellow is a cool yellow, and this yellow that I added to the palette is a warm yellow. So that helps me to adjust the what's called the color temperature. So I'm just going to drop in a little bit of this darker yellow on top of the bright yellow, and the colors will mingle together and hopefully create some excitement when it dries. Or you could just take gold if you have gold and make the star gold. They're different. I had shown you earlier the Gansai Tambi. And the crazy thing about the Gansai Tambi is they have lots of different golds in here. Let me get it out and show you. So there is a blue gold, a red gold, a yellow gold, a champagne gold, a light gold, and of course that white. So what I can actually do right now, let's just drop it. That's still wet, but I'm just going to drop a tiny bit of this. Let's use the yellow gold. Why not? So this is watercolor. It's gold particles that are suspended in watercolor. So I can just get it wet, and then those gold particles will come right up onto my brush, and I can just dab it in there. Oh, I know you can't see it on the film, but as soon as I touched it, just poof, there was an explosion of gold glitter in there. Oh, it's so much fun. Okay, so that's the painting of that. Now, in order to do the rest of it, which is the garland and the balls, I did all of that with a marker after the fact when it was dry. So I went ahead and I let this fully dry, and that's what we're going to do now. We're going to set it aside, let it fully dry, and then we're going to come back later and we're going to add the details with markers or pens. Okay, the next one I want to do is I'm going to show you how I do the oh, no, let's go ahead and do one of the bookmarks because that was one of the tags. So like I said, you can cut a piece of watercolor paper to bookmark size like this, or you can use this really cool, this is relatively new to the market, Hanamola 100% cotton watercolor bookmark pad. This is so cool because all you do is flip it open and now you've got watercolor paper to build your to build it on. It's so cool. So let's do something similar to this, which is um, the uh, mistletoe. And we're going to do that with a bow. So we're going to use something that looks similar to that, but we're going to do it on a bookmark. And so, like I said, this is the Hanamula bookmark paper. I'm actually right now, since I already cut this one out, we're going to do it on this watercolor pad. And you all know my favorite watercolor pad if you've watched me before, but if you haven't watched me before, it's the Canson XL watercolor paper. So that's my studio must have. And I always have like 5 of these pads going at the same time. So that's what this is cut out of. So I'm going to show you before I actually do that. I'm just going to show you the shapes we're working with. So I'm changing brushes right now, and I'm going to go to the brush that has the fluffy end to it, right? The rounded end that I was telling you about. This is the Princeton Heritage. And so let me put that in water to start. And let's go back to this, but I'm going to lighten it up a little bit. I have some really fun green in here that's super light. So let's just lighten that up a little bit. Actually, the when you're looking at the mistletoe after you've shot it out of the trees, as I was saying, it has like a little bit of a blue hue to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a little bit of this turquoise color over here and add that in. And that way my green has just a hint of blue in it because that's what the leaves look like. Okay, so this is just scrap watercolor paper that I was cutting the bookmark out of. And I'm just going to show you the shape of these these leaves of the mistletoe. So this is more rounded on the tip, this brush, instead of being pointed on the tip. You can do it with either brush, but I like the rounded tip because the mistletoe, and now I'm turning it to get it to come up. The mistletoe has a rounded end to the leaf. And so a little bit rounded, and then you come back up. And this is going to be a branch here. And so you're going to have roundedness and then lift, round and then lift. Okay, so what if you don't have this brush? How are you going to get those rounded leaves? I'll show you with the other brush. Which is why when you go and you shop for brushes, you know, you might be standing in front of the brushes and saying to yourself, why the heck are there so many brushes here? That's because the shapes of all these different brushes give you um, various strokes. And so you need to use the appropriate brush for the effect that you're trying to get. But if I'm using this one, which has a pointed tip to it, I can still get the same shape. The difference is going to be I'm going to create, I'm putting my brush down and then pushing on it to kind of flatten it almost, and then picking it up. And then I come back with that tip and I just round off the bottom of it. So now I get a very similar effect, but I'm using a pointed brush. So I just put the tip down, flatten it, lift up, come back around the top of it. So that lets me use a pointed brush and still get a rounded tip to it. Okay, so let's go ahead then on here. And this is our reference right here. So I'm going to draw a couple of, no, before I draw in the mistletoe, I want to draw a bow. So this, you can see the bow there. So I drew the bow first, and I avoided the area where the bow was when I drew when I painted in the leaves. So let's find that zebra pencil again, or pen, yeah, pencil. And so I'm going to first draw a little box, and the little box is going to have the top and the bottom of it are going to be rounded. Okay, so let me come up close and see if you can see that. So the top and bottom of it are rounded, and the sides I usually put just a slight angle. And then we're going to do the outer loop. Oops. As round as you can. Mine isn't very round, but it's okay. And then this loop. Look at that. I didn't put it in the center, did I? Erasers are beautiful things. Let's do that a little bit over, just a little bit more. So the rounded on each end. There we go. And we're doing the outside loop first. There, that's better. So we did the outside loop, the center and the outside loop. Now we're going to make it, the inside is pointed here in the center. So can you see that where it's pointed in the center? So I'm going to point it in the middle and then bring it around and back to the point. So something like this, something like that. Okay. Now I'm looking at it going, it's not perfectly round. I know. Okay. That's the reason that I do a little bit of drawing is so that I can get it the right shape that I want. I have the opportunity to go ahead and erase if I need to, right? Okay, there we go. So now I've got that part of the bow right there. And then I want to do this part of the bow down here. So I'm just going to come out from the back, come down, do a little V, upside down V there, and bring it back up. Nope, I can actually do that a little bit wider. So we're erasing, erasing, erasing. There we go. So I've got that one there. I'm going to do similar on the other side. We're going to put the upside down V and then bring it back up. Okay, so we've got a bow now, and we're going to work around the bow. So I start with the mistletoe, and then I go back and I do the bow. Let me just fix that a little bit right there. Okay. And so for the mistletoe, I'm going to start, I'm using the pointed brush right at the moment because I want to put in these long strands, right? That we're going to add the leaves to. So I'm going to just start up here. We're just creating the strands here. So it's like the bow is holding together the branches. So just randomly draw some branches in there and then continue them down at the other end. So something like that. Give yourself some room. You don't have to fill the whole area with those lines because of course we want to put leaves on them, right? So now I'm going to switch to my other brush. But again, if you don't have this rounded top brush, don't worry because you can use the tip. You just go back and fix the end of it. Okay, so let's start with this one. I'm gonna grab some of the color again. And I'm gonna start at the bottom of the leaf, press and lift up. So there's a leaf right there. And I'm just gonna work that on here. Of course, we're gonna have leaves on both sides. So, and I always end up turning my artwork. You know, some artists are like, "Oh, you shouldn't do that. You should turn your wrists." I'm like, "No, no, 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 no." It is a-okay. Now, as I'm coming up to the stem, I'm actually twisting my wrist like this. And the reason is in order to get the tip to go from being flat to giving me more something like this, I have to twist my wrist to make that happen. Okay. Now, right now, these leaves are very light, but that's okay because I usually come back later and darken them. So you'll find here, I come back and I add a darker color. I'm just working in those layers. Right now, think of it as your first draft when you're putting the leaves in here. So let's do a few more up here. and twist, and then here and twist. So don't worry. This is supposed to be relaxing and fun, right? Whether you're creating them for yourself or for like a family member, maybe. Maybe you know someone, my mother, who's not with us anymore, but man, she used to read so much. So a gift like this is perfect for somebody like her. Woo! Now, when I'm working down here at the bottom, I like to put in the bottom leaf or the one at the end first, and then work backwards from there. So there's the end, the one on the end, and then work up the stem. Leave yourself some room. Again, you're not filling the whole thing in because you see the little blue berries there that are reflective. We're going to be putting those blueberries, those well, frosty berries, as it were, in um, later. So you want to leave yourself plenty of room for them. Okay. And then let's make this one go like this. Okay. So those have the ends there. And then notice I left a lot of room down here because I want to put berries in there. So, you know, a lot of times people feel like when they're painting, they have to fill the whole, a repetitive pattern like this. They feel like, oh, I have to fill the whole area. But with something like this, you don't have to fill the whole area because you're going to come back in with berries and you need room for berries. There we go. So just I'm working, little at a time. So I'm putting the tip down, pressing, twisting, putting it down, pressing, and twisting to get those little leaves. Okay, it's okay to overlap. You see I'm overlapping some of the other leaves. That is okay to do the overlap. And then I'm working on this one right here. See, this little bit of paint goes a long way, more than you would think. Now around the bow here, I'm putting a leaf to make it look like the leaf is going behind it. But I don't want to go into the leaf area because I'm going to be painting that red. Go. And like that. What I've also did on this other little one is you see how I put a little bit of green inside the bow just to make it look more full. So you can add some green inside this bow just so it looks like there are some leaves coming down there. Let's do this right here. Okay, so it's part of a leaf showing through there. Right? So there's some leaves inside what's going to be inside the bow. And then I'll put some more leaves over here. And then we'll go to the berries. For the berries, I do like the brush that has the really snappy tip to it. For the Princeton, that would be the Velvet Touch, and I'll be putting a link to the Velvet Touch brushes in the description of the YouTube video. And they work amazingly well for the berries. Okay, let's put some leaves here. Just breathe, maybe play some nice music when you're doing this. No fuss, no muss. It's just watercolor. And if you make a mistake, I've shown before how you can take a scrubber brush. I'm going to show you in just a second. If you have good watercolor paper, you can use a scrubber brush to pick up uh, if some paint got in an area where you go, oopsies, I think I didn't want it there. Then I'll show you how you can pick it up. Okay, so there's a bunch there. And let's say that there was some paint where I didn't want it. So I'm just going to put a blob right there. Oh my gosh. Well, the first thing you want to do is right away pick up some of the color with your paper towel. And then you want to use a scrubber brush. So I'm looking for my scrubber. Where's my scrubber? There it is. So this is called a Willow's Blender. It has stiff, it's part of the Velvet Touch line from Princeton, and it has stiff bristles here. So I'm going to put that in clean water. And if you have a good watercolor paper, you can just, I was just using circles, and that dot came off. And now I'm going to use circles here. So as quickly as you can after it happens, use your blender brush, your scrubber, with some fresh water, and then and a fresh clean paper towel. And if it's a good watercolor paper, you can gently scrub the color back out. And the reason for that is because the paper, watercolor paper, has what's called sizing. So the paper itself, when they make it, they put a sizing in it. And what that does is it allows the paint to sit on top and not soak all the way down in. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to get these beautiful effects on top here. And so that sizing allows us to take the color back up. Now, this green is not a staining color. If I used one of these reds, reds tend to be staining colors. So just like with your clothing, if you get certain colors on them, it doesn't come out. So this cleanup on aisle 9 doesn't always work if the color that you dripped was a staining color. Okay, you can't always get it all the way 100% out. Sorry to say. Okay, so next we're going to do the bow, and we're going to do the blueberries at the end. So with the bow, we're going to be using a red. Let me see what red we have here. Oh, I really like the Christy Rice red here. Let me get my paper towel. Oh, that's not the right brush. It's the brush that doesn't have the pointy tip. Let me find my pointy tip brush here. Where did I put it? Not in my coffee cup, I hope. Because I have a whole handful of brushes here. There it is. Okay, let's clean that off. So I'm cleaning it off in the dirty water and then cleaning it off in the clean water and getting the excess water off the ferrule here, dipping back into the clean water and getting the red. So this is the Christy Rice red. I'm getting it wet and ready to go. So this red is very thick on there. And what I want to do, let me show you on here. Yeah, my sample sheet. So if I go to put it down, it's super, super thick and red. So what I like to do is dip the tip of this back. Oh, let's not use that water. Let's use the dirty water. I'm just going to dip the tip of it in the water before I get started. And that's going to give me a more fluid color. So now I'm not going all the way to the middle here. And I'm going around the center, but I'm leaving a little bit of white. So can you see the little bit of white there? That's going to be my highlight. So I'm bringing it around here. I don't want to go all the way in the center because all the way in the center, I'm going to do a combination of red and purple. And that's how you get the shadow look. I'm looking for the other card here, which is hiding over here. So do you see the purple, that like extra dimension in the middle there? That's done with a little bit of purple. So I don't want my red to go all the way to the center. I'm going to wait until I mix some purple in it to go there. So I'm just adding some red around here for the bow and adding some red here, leaving that center area with nothing in it yet. Okay. Whew. Now it's okay to have what's called a blotter sheet next to you. So this I would consider a blotter sheet. For instance, this first bit that I put in the center here was a little bit, it had lots of water in it. So you can start on another sheet if you want to get that excess water off. Okay, there we go. So I'm working on the two sides of the bow like that, leaving the center blank. And then I'm also going to work on the bottom of the bow's ribbons here. And leave that part right there where it meets the knot. I'm going to leave that because I want to put some purple in with my red to get those shadows. Oh, so pretty. Okay. I love the snappy tip on this Princeton brush because it helps you to get closer to your lines. It helps you get that more precise edge. If that's what you want. If you don't really care, don't worry. Okay, there we go. So now I've got a little bit of excess water in here. So I'm actually going to dab it off on my paper towel and then pick up some of that excess water there. So it's not too terribly juicy. There we go. And the reason is because when I put the purple next to it, I don't want it running into the center. Okay, so now I'm going to take this brush that already has some red on it, and I'm going to pick up some purple. So I'm grabbing a little bit of water. And then Christy Rice has a purple right here. So I'm double dipping, meaning I have red on my brush, and then I'm also getting some purple on it. Nice. A little bit more red. So right here, you can do your color mixing either here or over here. She has some color mixing wells on the side. Let me see if you can see that. Okay, or make sure you can see that. So I can color mix it over here, picking up a little bit of water, dabbing off some of the water, not purpley enough. Okay, let's get some more purple and with the red. Now I'm going to come into this area right here. Because you know that when the bit that of the bow that goes into the knot in the center tends to be darker right there at the center. There we go. So we have a purpley red going instead of just red. This helps to give it some dimension because then you've got that purple shadow look. And it's okay if the rest of the bow is still wet. It'll just sort of go out into the wet area, which is fine. It'll seep out into the red area. There we go. Another trick to making it look uh, interesting is to leave a little bit of white. It's okay when you're painting. You don't have to paint it all in. You can leave a little bit of that white. There we go. I'm going to turn it. I actually see an area where I want to blend it a little bit. So right here, there's kind of an abrupt part between the two, and I want to fade them into each other. So I put a little bit of water on the brush, and I'm just getting that area wet. And that way the two colors will fade into each other. Nice. There we go. So you want the colors to fade into one another. There we go. And then that will give you the look. It'll give you the red on the outside, and right next to the center of the bow, you've got that darkness, that little bit of purple. Okay, so that'll give your bow some dimension. All right. Next, we want to put the blue berries in, or the pale berries. So what I do with the pale berries is that I pick up some blue, kind of like a color that would be like a cerulean blue, um, something that's kind of pale. And over here we have a turquoise. So you see that? Barely there turquoise, right? Okay, let me do it a little stronger so you can see. You see that, how strong that color is? But one of the beauties of watercolor is the more water you use, the you can change the effect of your colors. So if I use a lot of water, I can actually get just barely a blush of blue. And that's what I want when I do these, what are they called again? Mistletoe berries. So I'm going to show you over here, and I'm just going to create a circle and leave a little white spot on it. Can you see that? Like a little circle with a white spot on it. Okay. That's actually, I need a little bit more water because it's still quite blue. All right. And then I'm going to come in here and add some berries. So that's why you have lots of extra space around here. You're going to be adding berries. So I'm just going to make a circle, leave the center of the circle empty, or a little, I'll show you a little edge. You see how the little highlight's not directly in the center, it's off to the side, like that. Now I'm making these a little bluer than I normally would because I want you to be able to see them. Normally I would add a little bit more water to it. And this is where having the snappy tip to the brush really helps you to get those circles. So you see that right there? Oh, they're so fun. Just pick up a little bit more when you need it. Or just drawing circles, berries. So you can do little clusters because when they fall out of the tree, they're big clusters of those berries. They're so cool. Okay, there you go. So there's a set of 3 of them right there. And so you're going to fill in your other areas with these, with the little berries. Okay. So then I would just go through and do the whole thing with just throwing a berry in here and a berry in there, just to fill up the spaces. Every so often I'll pull it back and I'll look at it. I'll bring it up and look at it, because I want to see, oh, do I need something more in another area? And you can, for instance, here where there's nothing up there at the very top, you could write somebody's name, Susie or something like that. If there's somebody that you're making the card for, just make sure that you leave yourself some room. Now over here where it says joy, I wrote the word joy first using a fountain or a dip pen, let that dry, and then I drew the rest of it in there. So that way I was working around the word that I had already put in. Okay. So I'm going to finish this later off camera uh, instead of finishing it here because it's just putting more berries on it. Now, I will tell you that there's, remember I showed you the golds again from Kuretake. So I am going to grab that white gold that I was telling you about. So here is the white gold, and that's how I put a little bit of sparkle in on those berries. So can you see here? Let's see if you can see the sparkle. I don't know if you can see the sparkle or not, but I added a little bit of that white to those berries there. And that is this white gold. So let me clean my brush. So I went into the dirty water first and now the clean water. And what I'm going to do is grab some of this white gold, which basically is just an iridescent. It's a white iridescent. So now that I have the white iridescent, I can drop that in here and it will add iridescent to every one of those little berries. You can either do it now while they're wet, or you can do it later once they're dry. Either way, it'll give this incredible sheen to each one of the berries. It gives it like a white sheen, which is what the frost does to it when they're up in the trees. It's so fun. This is a fabulous little set. Fabulous set. Okay, so we're going to go on to the next one. Any questions? I'm looking here to see in the chat. I see some folks over on YouTube. Thanks for joining me on YouTube, and thank you for joining me over on Whatnot as well. Okay, so I'm waiting for that. The next one. So that's doing a bookmark. Now, what I do after the bookmark is dry is I go back and I use a fixative on it. So there are a bunch of different kinds of fixatives that you can use for watercolor. Usually, if I'm going to do it outside, I use a spray can of Krylon fixative. This is one that you can use in the studio because of the spray pump. It's not aerosolized. It's Spectrafix Degas fixative. It's not made for watercolor, but I've found that for myself, it does work on watercolor. The only thing you have to be careful of is your painting needs to be fully dry. And when you spray this, sometimes it can come out of the top because it's just a regular spray bottle like that. Um, Sometimes the fixative can come out in little globs and that can affect your watercolor. So if you're doing something that's just for fun, like your tags or something, I wouldn't even worry about it. Having that little bit of gloppy fixative come out. But if I'm doing it, if I want to be careful and I have a fancy watercolor that I've put lots of time into, I would not use that in the studio spray fixative. I would use an aerosol fixative and take it outside and do it that way. And usually I'll put 2 or 3 coats on it. This one has this fixative, the in the studio fixative on it right there. Okay, so let's do let me see, what's the next one I want to do? Oh, I want to do this one because I love the dreidel. The dreidel. Oh, you know what? We have to start this one next and then we'll do the dreidel. There we go. So I'm going to set this aside. Look at that. Let's do another tag. So for the tags, like I said, I love this paper from Hanamola because I can just pull one of these off. Didn't I pull one of these off already? Oh, well, I don't know where it went. Oh yeah, I just used it. Huh. So I just pull that off and then I'm ready to go. And what I do is, yeah, I get a little precise. I go ahead here and I measure it. So it is not quite 8 inches. So let me just adjust that. So there's the 4 is where it is the middle. So if I just do that, then I'm going to cut approximately along there. And that's another reason why I love these Hanamola bookmark pad, because you can make tags out of them super quick and easy just by cutting these in half. Excellent. I didn't quite cut that evenly. I prefer using a little guillotine. I have a little guillotine in the other room, and that way I can get the cut better. A little more straight than when I cut it by hand. Okay, what's the next step I'm going to do? So I'm going to put the hole in it before I start painting. So let's take our hole punch, which is from just the office supply store. Put it in the middle, give myself a little room there. Ta-da! Ready. Don't stress if you don't quite get it right. It's it's just a tag. It's going to go on a present. It doesn't matter. Oh, okay. We're going to do this one. And this one, because this needs a couple of steps, similar to where we were doing the this little, whoop, there we go. The tree needs a couple of steps. So this one right here needs a couple of steps as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to first draw a couple of circles. If you're not comfortable drawing circles, there are, um, you can buy these kind of, what is it called? Giant circles inking template. There you go. So you can buy something like this. And then if you're more comfortable using that, you can put this on here. Let's use the pencil and just go around here. I usually just freehand it. I don't worry too much about it because, as you can see here, I have 3 different sizes, and this little size isn't even on the template. You can get templates that are smaller than this as well. That's for when I'm working on larger paper. So that was a circle where I used the template. Then I'm going to do another circle here, a little bit slightly smaller. The thing is, when you freehand it, of course, it's not as round, right? It's a little wonky, but that's okay. And then we want a smaller one up here. Sure. Did I get it? Oh, where's my eraser? I want it slightly bigger than that. Now, what I want to bear in mind is I'm going to be putting a topper on here and a little line. So you see how this one is slightly off to the side so that the two are not exactly aligned, right? So that's what I want to do. I want to bring this one over this way just a little bit more so they will not be aligned. They'll be skewed off from each other. Okay, there we go. So just a couple of circles there, 3 circles. Now, what I do first is I put the green branches in the background first. So lo and behold, we already have some beautiful green here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, let me see. Yep, I can use this brush. So the brush that we've been using most along the way is this Princeton Velvet Touch. So right now, I'm going to use the same one. And let's see, let's do red for the one down in the bottom. Now I've got a different red here that's kind of a pinky red. That came out of a tube. These are called pans. This came from a tube of watercolor paint. So you can get watercolor paint in tubes as well. Let me see, I have some watercolor tubes over here. I'll show you what that looks like. So there's a tube of watercolor paint right there. And you can squeeze it out onto your palette instead of having it like this, or you can buy empty pans and then squeeze them into the empty pans as well. Okay, so here we go. We're going to put some color here. Now this time, last time I left a little light right there. So I left a little area with no paint on it. This time I'm going to do that on this side instead. I'm going to do a little area so that it looks like the light is coming from over here this time. The other direction. So at first, just get a layer of color down like that, light. And then we'll do this one. So maybe we'll do that one purple. I have some nice purples here. So we'll start putting the purple in there. So this is one that we're going to get that snowy, sparkly effect on. And we want our light source over here. So we're going to leave a little bit of lights right there. There we go. Don't worry if it's not perfect. These are fun tags to share with family members. Hey there. Oh, Dragon Hoarder came in. I see. Roar! Dragon Hoarder. Thanks for joining the show. Okay, and now we're going to put a blue one. So let's just take the color that, see what I mean about watercolor that I just love is you can reactivate the watercolor. So I already had a nice blue here, and I'm just going to pick up that blue that I already had with just a little bit of water. What you're going to notice if you use these bookmarks, this bookmark pad from Hanamula, is that, woo, it is, this paper is thirsty, okay? It doesn't have the same property of the paint sitting on top of it as this Canson does. I love that about watercolor too, right? It's so quick and easy, you know? You can grab it and run. Grab the color. Okay, so now we've got, let's do this. Now we've got 3 different colors there. By the time we finish with this one's mostly dry. So what we can do now is deepen the color by adding more paint to it. So I'm gonna pick a different, deeper red now. Oh yeah, this is like a cadmium red. This was more of a rose, and this is also a rose, but I think by a different company. And now you want it to be dark at the bottom and dark right near the top. So we're gonna add some darkness right there. We want to give it the impression that it's round, right? So we're going around like this. And a little bit of red up here. And you can pick up a little bit of extra water and sort of feather this out so the colors blend with each other. There you go, like that. Okay, now let's do that with the purple. Because if you'll notice that first layer, you see how most of the color is on, I have to find the camera there. Most of the color is a solid color here, the blue, the purple, and even the red when the red dried. So you let that set up a little bit and then you can come in and put your darker colors in with it. So I have a really dark purple over here, which is a dioxazine purple. Love that. Okay. So we're going to drop that in. So the bottom of it is going to be dark and at the very top here. And then I'm going to add a tiny bit of water and feather, feather, feather. There we go. So a little more drama there. And the same with the blue. Let's see what color blue we want to use. Okay, this Pebeo, I want the cobalt blue. So that's this one right next to the green. There's the Pebeo one I was showing you earlier. I think I like the cobalt blue. It's almost, it's like got a big dip in it. Yeah, that's from using it a lot. Okay. Oh yeah, beautiful, beautiful. The cerulean blue and the cobalt blue and the turquoise blue, those seem to be the ones that I gravitate toward. I use the most. So again, you see how it's right now the lines are very sharp. So I'm just going to add a little bit of water to the tip of my brush here. And then I'm going to soften the edges there where they meet. All right. So now we've got a little bit of variety in the colors that we have there. And let's put in the little branches of the tree here. All right. So we have this little bit darker green over here. I like the Princeton Velvet Touch with the snappy tip to it because it makes it a lot easier to do these little wispy. Um, Let me do a few more and then I'll show you. When you want to do the little bit wispy needles of the pine tree, it's really easy with the tip of this brush. So let's get a little more water and I'll just put a little bit more in there. Ah, they're so cute. Easy, easy peasy when you have a brush like this. When you have the right tools, right? It makes it a lot easier to do your job. Something like that. And even to increase your enjoyment when you're painting, if you have the right tools. Okay. So I'm just flicking that tip to get these pine needles in there. Almost done, almost done, almost done. Grab a little more water. Ah, the dark color is running out. Let me pick up a little bit more dark. There we go. More just random. That's why I like doing watercolor like this because it's no stress, right? You're just randomly putting stuff in there. And we'll put a little bit more up here. A few more needles. Is that good? Let's put some more needles over here. There we go. Ah, that's fun. So we've got our needles all around it. Only took a few minutes, right? So now what we need to do is we need to let this dry. And then we're going to do the softening effect. Now I see a hair here because I have a dog. I have a dog. And so naturally there's hair everywhere. And most of my paintings have doggy DNA in them because that's just the way it is. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to set it aside and then I'm going to show you how we soften it and we add the look, we add the shimmer. You see the shimmer there with that again, white iridescent. Okay, so let's come back to, nope, next we're going to do this one. Sorry. I want to do a dreidel. I just love painting the dreidels. I think they're fantastic. Um, I'm not Jewish, but I grew up with a lot of Jewish family and friends. And so we would go to our friends' homes for Passover or during the Hanukkah period of time. And so the dreidel was a toy that we would play with as kids. So and it's a top with four sides. Each side has a Hebrew word on it, and it's played with uh, gelt. So gelt are these little, uh, usually chocolate coins. That's what we used to play with. That were a lot of fun. So we're going to build this with a little square on top here. So again, a pencil comes in handy for this. So I'm just going to build the square off to the side. The lines on that are parallel to each other should be the same shape. So in other words, I won't do one like this and the other one like this. They need to be the same shape, going parallel to one another. So I put that line there, and then this line here, which is parallel there. And then I'm going to bring this down. So we're creating these little sides that the words go on. There we go, like that. So it's kind of like you're creating a box, right? A 3D box. And then this one is going to come down here. I'm not making it perfect. I'm making it a little wonky. Okay, and then we're gonna, it's a top. A dreidel is a top that we would spin and play. Oops, that angle needs to be a little bit better. So here, I'll bring it up closer so you can see sort of the shape of it, right? Let's do this. And then we'll do this one. Come down here. And it's sort of, usually it's a little bit flat on the bottom. So you can spin it and it'll fall over. And then we'll put the little top, the handle on it right here. Because there's a little spinner top for it. Okay, there we go. So something like that, little drawing. So let's go ahead and color these up. There's my brush. So I think I'll do this one with the top blue. So let's get a nice dark blue here. So we're just going to do the top in blue. So I'm using the Princeton Velvet Touch with the snappy tip so I can sort of draw lines and then fill it in. I don't want to fill in the area where my handle is. That's going to be a different color. Okay, there we go. Like that. And remember, you can always come back and darken it or lighten it. To lighten it, if I put a color down and I feel like the color is too dark, I can actually come back in and with a wet brush with just water in it, I can lift some of that color out. So that's kind of fun to be able to do that. There we go. So now we've got the color on there. And then let's do the color in the middle. Let's see, what color do I want to put in the middle? I think I'll use this fun orange color that's over here. In the, this is the Christy Rice set. It's kind of a pale orange. It's fun. Okay, let's add a little bit more water to the brush. Ooh, that's pretty. And it matches well with the blue because the opposite color on the color wheel from the blue is orange. So when you mix blue and orange together, because they're opposite each other on the color wheel, you get a brown or a muddy color, a gray or a brown. But if you want to create excitement in a painting, put the opposite colors on the color wheel next to each other. So in this case, we're putting a light orange next to the blue. And so that makes it a very exciting combination. Okay, Q. And then what are we going to put down at the bottom? Maybe red at the bottom. Let's put some red down there. Ooh, which color red do I want? Let's take some of the Christy Rice red. I'm going to come down here with the red. I actually like that the lines show through on these because then that helps to define the shape of the dreidel. If you can see the lines. So not all colors of watercolor are really transparent. Most of them are. And part of it depends on how much water you put in with it, how transparent it's going to be. Because some paints that are actually quite thick, if you add enough water to it, it'll make it that much more transparent. Oh, that's fun. Okay, there we go. So there's the dreidel, the bottom of the dreidel. nice colors go in there. And then I'm going to be drawing in the handle. Actually, why don't we use this and put in some gold for the handle? Ooh, that would be nice. Let's use this red gold right here, which is quite a deep gold. Why not? Okay, so I just added some water and we're getting the gold up there. Let's see what that looks like if I use that for the handle. Yeah. Wow. Wow. I know you might not be able to see it on camera, but woof, these metallics are just stunning. Stunning. Okay, so that is the handle. A gold handle. So far, there's the gold handle for it. Now, when I let this dry, I come back with a marker and I mark in the characters, the Hebrew with that. So I let that dry and then I put the Hebrew letters on it. Okay. So let's now another thing that I like to do is to put the Star of David there. And it's just two triangles. It's so easy. So let's do those two triangles using a pencil. So I'll put a Star of David ornament right here. So it's an upside down triangle. So you have a triangle going up like that, and then a triangle going upside down. So we'll do the up triangle right here, like these. I like doing it with pencil and then going back over it later with a pane. Let's do this. So technically, these two triangles are supposed to be the same shape, but I don't normally get them the same shape when I freehand it. Okay, so there's your Star of David. And what I'm going to do now is just pop a little bit of, I'm going to do some yellow on it. So I'm going to do the yellow from over here. This is the Pebeo set. I'll put a little bit of yellow on the star. Nice. And then I'm going to drop some of that gold in that we were just playing with. Oh yeah, while the yellow is still wet. And when you put the metallic in, when the yellow is wet, or when your other colors are wet, it helps to disperse it. There we go, like that. Don't worry too much about getting directly inside the lines. And the reason is because you're going to be going over it with a pen later. Do you see the gold lines that I have around the Star of David? So that was done with this Signo marker or Signo pen. And so you don't have to worry if the paint goes a little bit outside the lines. Okay, so now I'm going to get that yellow off and I'm going to add some of this. Let's use this one, the light gold. Ooh, I want the yellow gold. See, it doesn't matter if you double or even triple dip with these. So I'm going to get the gold on there, get a little bit of water on my brush, and then just drop it in. Oh, that's going to be beautiful. So what we're working on is tags, gift tags. So if you're going to be giving a Jewish friend of yours during Hanukkah a present, then you can make them a handmade tag to go with it. So fun. Okay. We're going to set this aside to dry and we're going to finish off this little tree. So the little tree, I'm going to show you the one that I finished before. It has little red balls on it. And what I did to create the little red balls was I used a marker, so a permanent marker. So instead of using watercolor, which I definitely could use watercolor, but because watercolor tends to be transparent, it could reactivate the colors underneath. But if I'm using a micron pen or say a pencil like this Stabilo pencil, I have a Stabilo pencil in red, but if you have some sort of red pencil or a red marker pen, I find it's easier to put the little red balls in. But before we put the red balls in, let's use the gold to do the sashes that go like this, right? So the sashes just go back and forth. Let me show you on here. Can you see that? The sashes are going back and forth. So you just take this and you do, this is the Signo roller ball in gold. But don't worry, it will be linked in the description of the YouTube video. When the YouTube video is finished, I'll go back and I'll add a link. Okay, so now we have the sash on there. You can see the gold sash. And then I can go in with my marker, my pen, and I can put in my red balls. And this way I can place them right where I want them, depending on the paint or the paint that's in the marker. You can even use like an acrylic paint marker for this. That would work too. So that's what I do is I go through and I'll put red balls on it. It might work well with the, or better with an acrylic paint pen. And then I just went around the star with this. So as long as the star is dry, I just go right over top of those pencil marks. So the nice thing is when you're doing this and you're going over top of it with gold or silver, the gold or silver pen, you're going to find that you're covering up those pencil marks. So you don't even see the pencil marks anymore. And then I decided to go whole hog and add a whole bunch more stars to it. My favorite star is an X, a plus sign, and then little dots around the outside like that. But you can do any sort of star and snowflakes, anything like that. Now I could have used the silver pen of this and drawn snowflakes instead. You can do that. So this same micron pen comes in silver as well. All right, so that's how you finish off this tag right here. And of course, the back is blank, so you can write a sentiment to whoever it is that you want to say hello to. So we're going to finish now this one. And this is, the balls are dry. Well, we're not going to be able to finish it yet. We're going to get this wet and it'll give it a nice soft edge to it. So I'm going to take this brush that I said was the travel brush from Pebeo. So you see how it comes apart. So cool. Love this brush. And so it's a big fluffy mop brush. It's fluffy on the end. And I'm going to take plain water. So I've got just clear water here like this. And I'm going to take clear water. I don't want it too much dripping. And I'm going to start with the green areas. So I'm just putting clean water in the green areas first. So where those pine needles were, just to juice that up. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go in where the balls are. And I'm going to just cover the whole thing with water like this. And what happens is the colors will begin to bleed out the edges, and it's fabulous. It is so fabulous. I just love it. I love the effect, the softening effect. So here you can see the paint running, right? Can you see it running? But it gives you like this beautiful soft edge to those ornaments. And then let's go ahead now. And we're going to take some of the white gold again. So I do use this. Where did I get the brush? Annette, this brush is a Princeton, so they can come from any art supply store. It's the Princeton Velvet Touch. So Princeton has a whole line of Velvet Touch brushes. This happens to be the number 6 round, which is the right size for doing things like tags. But of course, it goes up to much larger and even smaller than that. Um, and so they come from art supply stores, or when I finish with the video, I will add on YouTube, I will add a link to all these items in the description of the video. But if you want to pick it up before then, you can just search for Princeton Velvet Touch. And I'm using the number 6. My 2 favorite from the Princeton Velvet Touch are the number 6 and the number 8. You are quite welcome. Ah, okay. So, oh, they're so beautiful the way it gets soft around the edges there. But I was just picking up some of the water because I was like, there's a little bit too much softness going on. So I can adjust that. But now I'm going to use this brush again because of the tip, nice tip to it. And I'm going to grab more of that white gold. This is the Kuretake Gansai Tambi Starry colors. This is what the box looks like. Again, I'll have it linked in the description of the YouTube video later, tonight or tomorrow. But this is just a beautiful iridescent. Many different watercolor companies make an iridescent, but while this is still damp, I like to drop it in to the painting. And then what it does is it diffuses and it gives us amazing little snowflakes. See that? I'll show you here in just a second up close. It is, you are gonna love this technique. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Because it gives you that look of like the snow is falling here. So let me show you in just a moment here. Oh, amazing. And when it dries, they just sparkle. They sparkle so much. Okay, can you see the sparkle there? I don't know if you can see it because the water is certainly, there's a lot of water. Now, what I'll do is I babysit this a little bit because some areas are wetter and some areas are drier. So the areas that are drier, I actually need to add a little bit of water. So I'm getting a little water on the tip of the brush to make it spread a little bit more. Um, and then the other areas that are wetter, it spreads out a lot. So I go back and I just make sure that I add a little bit more in those spots where it's spread a lot. Because I like a lot of punch in the snowy effect. So I go back in and I add more. Because in this case, more is more, right? Okay. That looks good. That looks good. So maybe you can see it better now. Yeah, now you can see it better when I put it in the light like that. Oh, oh, oh my gosh, y'all. It is so cool. I love the snowy effect. It's awesome. Awesome. Okay. So just bear in mind when you clean out this brush that now has that white sparkle in it, that the white sparkle is going to get all in your water. And then all the other colors that you mix after that are going to have sparkle in them. So sometimes I will have a separate cup next to me if I'm working with sparkle, or I'll use a separate brush so that I'm not commingling that brush with all the other ones if I don't want sparkle to get into my paint. But we're not putting any more paint down. I'm doing this sparkle at the end of the painting session. So it's fine. It's fine. Let's see where this is still damp. I can even get a little bit more in there. Oh my gosh. And when it dries, pow, these are amazing. So we're going to set this one aside to dry while we work on the dreidel. Yep. There we go. Nice. Okay. Fabulous. Where do I put it? Okay. So we're going to set this aside to dry and we will work on the dreidel here. Okay. While that dries. And you can speed these along because it's watercolor. So I do have next to me at my table here, I have a heat tool. So you can speed it along with a heat tool if you want to. If you hate to wait, there we go. All right, we'll set that aside and come back to it. So this one is dry, yay. And I'm gonna start with the gold Signo Uniball. And I'm just gonna follow the lines that I drew of the triangle on the Star of David here. So it's the two upside down, it's the two triangles, one upside down from the other. Nice. And then I put a loop at the top. And then I put a string up from that. Okay, cute. All right. Now with the dreidel, I like to outline it. That's just me. I like to outline it. So, oops, let me find my my Micron permanent ink pen. Hello there. What is it? Token and got kids. Welcome in, welcome in. Okay, so here I'm going to outline this first. Don't worry, and remember these are just gift tags. They may end up being thrown away right away. My mother, the trick that my mother would do on nice things like this, like if it was a nice tag and she wanted to keep it, is she would take a post-it note, and on the back side, she would just write and attach the post-it note. And then that way you could pull the post-it note off and use it again if she liked to tag, right? Okay, so we're going to outline these lines. This is once the paint is dry. Here. And then we'll bring the lines down here. Just sort of go like this. Doesn't have to be perfect. Perfectly imperfect, right? Now we're going to put these Hebrew words on there. And so it's to me, writing Hebrew is just drawing, because I don't understand Hebrew. So it's just the kids, when I would play with our friends, our family friends, kids, they would tell me what it meant. I'd say, okay, thank you. So the nice thing is if the watercolor is dry, which it looks like it's not 100% dry, because what happens is your nib will sort of dry out if the ink is being absorbed by the watercolor underneath, which is, it's happening a little bit here. But remember how I said you just have your piece of paper next to you, your blotter paper. So that's what I have going here. Okay, so there's one character right there. And then we'll do the other one over here. Like that. This one up here. You just look and draw. Aha! See, it's drying out because it's not quite 100% yet. It's not quite 100%. Like that. Here again, I could use an acrylic marker, and that would probably work better while it's still a little bit wet. But there you go. There's the top. Now I do want the handle here. Woo! Let's get the ink flowing. I want to do the handle. There we go. Nice. So there is our top, our dreidel. And then I like to use the silver. Where's the silver? I like to use the silver to go in and do like little snowflakes. My ex plus and dots like that. So you can put several snowflakes around it like that. And that's a really cute customized, it's customized tag for them. All right, let's see how we're doing here. Woo, almost dry, almost dry. Let's do this on, where is it? Where is it? The gold. So I like to use this gold Signo broad tip uni ball. Okay, that's what we're using for the tops. So we just create the little tops like this for the ornaments. And this is not as affected by the fact that this is a little bit damp. Okay, so I just put the little top on there. And now I like to do either a chain link or a squiggly line like that. Super easy and fun. And then this one, same little loop, squiggly line. And we'll do the same thing over here. Super easy to do these, and they are so fun and they look so good. There you go. So there are the squiggly lines. And this one, you see that? Oh, that's my favorite part right there. Yeah, thank you. What is it? Annette collects and sells. But you see that? Oh my gosh. Beautiful, right? I love, love, love using that white gold from this set, the Kuretake set, for that kind of snowy effect. So these are the ones that we just did. This one's not quite done yet. Where's the other one? This one. And then we also did this one, which needs a few more blueberries. But let me see if I can show you the berries on the mistletoe. Can you see them shimmering there? I don't know if you can or not, but woo, that was using the white. Again, the white gold from that set. And that is so much fun. Yes. Oh, good, good, good. You can see the shimmer. That white gold is like my secret weapon, right? This, they call it white gold, but it's iridescent. Okay, so that is it for the lesson part of the show.